Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and please do not forget to like and subscribe, thank you. He waited, but she never came. The love story that broke Lee Min-ho's spirit and changed him forever. There are some stories that never make it into the news, stories that happen in silence, under the weight of moonlight, when no one is watching. For Lee Min-ho, one of Korea's brightest stars, that story began on a cold night by the river. The same river where love once promised to last forever. He stood there waiting. The night was still, the city lights shimmered in the water, and the sound of distant laughter echoed from across the street. He checked his phone again and again, hoping for a message, a call, anything. But the screen stayed blank. Minutes turned into hours, hours into ache. He waited, but she never came. That was the night his heart quietly broke, not in anger, not in tears, but in silence, so deep it almost swallowed him whole. To the rest of the world, Lee Min-ho remained the picture of perfection. The dazzling actor. The man whose smile made headlines, whose eyes told stories, whose life seemed like a fairy tale. But those who truly knew him, his assistants, his closest friends, his quiet driver, all noticed the change. The light in his eyes had dimmed. His laughter had become softer, slower, lonelier. No one knew that every night after filming, he drove to that same spot by the Han River. The same place they had once watched the sunset together, where she once held his hand and whispered, "No matter what happens, don't stop waiting for me." He had believed her. And he did wait. But she never returned. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. Yet somehow, the promise still lingered in his heart, fragile, aching, alive. In one of his rare and deeply emotional interviews, he confessed, "People think moving on is about forgetting. It's not. It's about learning to live with the memory without letting it destroy you." Those words broke millions of hearts around the world. Fans who adored his confidence suddenly saw a man in pain, a man who had loved so deeply that the loss became part of him. A close friend later revealed, he would come to set early, but barely talk. He would stare at the script for a long time before saying a single word. Sometimes, during romantic scenes, he'd look away, as if afraid to feel too much again. The pain began to shape his art. His acting grew richer, his emotions raw. He no longer needed to pretend. Every heartbreak scene was a reflection of his truth. During the filming of one emotional breakup scene, the director called cut, but Lee Min-ho didn't stop crying. The set fell silent. No one dared speak. He simply sat there, his tears soaking through his costume. Later, he whispered, "It wasn't the character crying. It was me." Those moments became legendary, not because of the performance, but because of the honesty behind it. He started writing poetry, quietly, privately, in journals no one was meant to see. Some of those lines were later revealed by an anonymous source. "I waited where the stars touched the river, hoping love would remember its way back. But even the river moved on. Only I stayed, still, foolish, faithful." Those words broke hearts across social media, spreading like wildfire. Fans wrote letters, sending him words of comfort and healing. One letter read, "Thank you for showing us that even those who shine the brightest can break, and that it's okay to feel pain." He began receiving messages from fans around the world, people who had been abandoned, betrayed, or forgotten. They told him his silence spoke louder than any dialogue he ever delivered on screen. Still, for a long time, he couldn't speak her name. He avoided questions about love. He smiled during interviews, but it was a smile that carried sorrow. He immersed himself in work, new scripts, new challenges, new faces. But late at night, when the lights went out, the silence returned. In one deeply personal conversation with a close confidant, he admitted, "The hardest part isn't losing someone. It's realizing they've already forgotten the promises you're still holding on to." He began traveling, quietly, without announcement. He went to places where no one knew his name. He hiked alone through forests, walked barefoot on beaches, and sat in cafes where no one asked for a photo. "I wanted to feel human again," he said. "Just a man who hurts, breathes, and heals." On one of those solitary trips, he wrote another reflection in his journal. She became the chapter one can't close. I see her in sunsets, in coffee cups, in rain. I don't want her back anymore. I just wish I could forget how to remember. He eventually learned to live again, not by erasing her, but by transforming the pain into purpose. His fans began to notice the difference. His speeches became more heartfelt, his interviews more sincere. He started speaking about mental health, self-worth, and the importance of loving oneself before loving others. In a recent public appearance, a young fan tearfully asked him, "Do you still believe in love?" Lee Min-ho smiled gently, paused, and replied, "Yes. But now, I believe in love that gives peace, not pain. Love that stays, not the kind that asks you to wait in vain." The room went silent. Many cried. Because in that moment, Lee Min-ho wasn't just an actor. He was every person who had ever waited for someone who never came. Every heart that had ever broken silently and rebuilt itself quietly. Today, he speaks with the calmness of someone who has accepted his past. He no longer visits the river. He no longer waits for messages that will never arrive. He has made peace with the silence. And yet, sometimes, just sometimes, when he talks about love, there's a glimmer in his eyes. Not of pain, but of gratitude. Because even though she never came back, she taught him something priceless. That love, no matter how brief or broken, always leaves behind a piece of beauty, and sometimes that's enough. Crescent Moon, he waited, but she never came, is not just a story of heartbreak. It's a story of a man who stood in the rain of memory and learned to find sunshine again. It's a story of healing, of growth, of rediscovering strength when the world turns dark. Lee Min-ho's journey reminds us all. Even the brightest stars have nights without light, but those nights are where they learn how to shine from within.